Yep. Okay, hold on. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to open the meeting. We call stand pledge.
The United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Good evening, everybody. This week, we lost a former board member, Norm Devino, so I'd like to have just a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. First order of business today is to the correspondence. And we had several emails regarding the soccer, both pro and con. And then we also had, do we have any other topics besides? Oh yeah, no, we have the island letter as well. Okay. I'll pass those around. Okay, and then our next item up for agenda is the superintendent of schools.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I want to welcome you if you're here in person or if you're at home. We had a very busy October and heading into November, so we're just going to do a little bit of things going on around the district. And then the main crux of our presentation tonight, this is the planning session, so it's to give information to the Board of Education regarding our goals. We've set 5 very specific goals for the district in the course of the year. And we're going to update on our progress towards those goals. And we'll hear from each of our assistant superintendents on those areas. And then we have a presentation regarding a financial position for the board to consider. And then we'll head into the board session part of the meeting. So we had a lot of great things going on. Here's an example of Lincoln Avenue had their homecoming. Just a lot of happy students. Sunrise Drive had a trunk or treat. All the PTAs in the elementary schools just did a phenomenal job this last month, providing opportunities for students. It was really just wonderful to see and getting to see the smiles on kids' faces as they engage in activities after school and during school. We had a book machine, which was provided by the Lincoln Avenue PTA, and we had our grand opening, and students, when they are good citizens, can receive a coin and then use the coin to pick a book of their choice, and they're leveled, so the books at the bottom are for younger kids, and as they get taller, the books on the top are for older students. So it's a really nice way and fun way to get kids reading, and also recognizing students for being kind, caring citizens in their school. Sunrise Drive did a Strides kickoff, which was really nice, and the middle school had a Halloween dance. The high school did a really great Halloween event for students throughout the district, the not so scary Halloween at the high school. We also had at the elementary schools, Hispanic Heritage Month was celebrated in our LACES program. That's our language learning program for 3rd, 4th, 5th graders in elementary schools, looking at Hispanic heritage and culture. And again, just a variety of fun activities, all geared towards sense of belonging in schools, creating engaging activities to think about the community. There's an example of the not so scary Halloween, where elementary students go to the high school and high school students volunteer to create nice experiences for our kids. And I just want to compliment our entire community, the elementary, middle, and high school. The sense of community here is just wonderful, and it should be celebrated as much as possible. Here's another couple Halloween shots. We had some great costumes throughout the district, both at the elementary, middle, and high school. I also want to just congratulate those athletic teams that are competing in playoffs. Our girls varsity volleyball team had the Class A county championship coming up on Friday. Our boys and girls cross country is also going to a county championship this weekend. Boys varsity football is in the qualifying round of the Division III Section 11 playoffs. The boys golf Section 11 quarterfinals, I think, was today. I'm not sure what the outcome was, but we'll find out soon. Swimming and diving is also participating in the Suffolk County Championships. And our girls varsity cheerleading team is the Class B game day cheer Suffolk County champions and New York State champions. So we're really proud of all of our teams who participated in any of those seasons. And we continue to watch some of them continue to chase after victory moving forward. So congratulations. So just in framing this, a year ago, we sent out surveys to parents, students, family members, and also teachers and staff. And we basically asked a series of questions which focus on how do you currently experience the Sayville schools? What do you like? What do you enjoy? What do you thrive? What thrives here, which is quite a bit. And how do you want to experience the schools moving forward? And what areas do you want to kind of aim for in the future? Also ask the question, what do you want for outcomes for our kids when they graduate our schools? So from the time they enter pre-K to the time they graduate, what are the things that you really want to see our kids leaving Sayville schools with? And we kind of took all that data, all that information, synthesized it, and came up with really 6 outcomes that we're aiming for. We want our students to be independent learners, self-sufficient. We want them to be caring, kind citizens. We want them to be effective communicators, both verbally and in writing. We want them to be great collaborators, because that's what the companies and organizations are looking for when they do hiring in the future. We want them to be critical thinkers. We want them to be able to look at information, assess the information, critically analyze that information, and make decisions for themselves. I think we always talk about great teachers are ones who help students to analyze information, but then make their own decisions about what it means for them. And of course, we want our students to have joyful learning experiences where they feel cared for and happy in school. So as we look at these outcomes, we ask principals in each of the buildings to, in their own way, with their staffs, come up with plans for themselves. So those plans included at Sayville High School, coming up with a program called CORE, which they're slowly developing, which is really celebrating what they are already great at and building upon that with connection to students, ownership of work, resilience when things get tough, and exploration of content that they're interested in. So the high school has kind of embarked on that journey. Mr. Hoffer and his team and the administrative team, the chair people, have been working on faculty meetings, and I think they have one really great event coming up as a result, which was the Students Connect or Community Connect Day, which is the day before Thanksgiving break. Every single child in the high school is going to be going out into the community somewhere to connect with community organizations, to do community service, and to make a difference in our local community. And that's just an outcome of the connection part of CORE. And then throughout the year, we'll continue to look at how to make ownership, resilience, and exploration a part of the work we do with our kids. At middle school, they came up with something the teachers called PATH: perseverance, accountability, teamwork, and honesty. And again, it kind of cycles into the same 6 outcomes that we want for kids, but the teachers were able to create this with their administrative team on their own, and they're exploring at the middle school, what does this look like in our lesson planning, in our assessments, in our units of study? How do we foster perseverance, accountability, teamwork, and honesty in all of the work we do at the middle school, so we're preparing kids for high school. And similarly at the elementary school, Sunrise Drive is looking at, welcome to the pond. What does it look like to be a member of Sunrise Drive? What are the core values we have? What does Lincoln Learns mean to the students and staff at Lincoln? And Cherry Avenue focusing on back to basics, each in their own way, having autonomy to kind of create their own work, but at the same time, aiming towards these outcomes K through 12 that we really want to have for all of our students. So this is the instructional work that's been going on. And goal 1 is really focused on achieving that at each school. But we really believe in is that if each school has the autonomy to be their own unique place and do it in their own unique way, but under a framework of the district vision, we'll see greater buy-in from our staff, from our teachers, from our parents and families. And so far it's been going really well, and we're really excited about that work. And so that's goal 1, which is, these are goals not just for this year, but for the next 5 years. We also have a second goal, which is about elementary curriculum and instruction, and I'm going to turn that over to our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Ms. Demiola.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to report on goal number 2 tonight. I'm so proud and so pleased to report the great energy of our elementary faculty. We've hit the ground running. And it's not just our elementary faculty. What we're really excited about is that in these 4 committees together, it's a committee on math, on ELA, or literacy, science and social studies, and RTI. Together, there are nearly 50 teachers involved, and they're from all 5 buildings. And there's a wonderful benefit to that, even though the focus is on elementary disciplines. To have the input and the insights from secondary teachers is just so great in so many ways. It forms bonds between teachers of different grade level bands, and it raises awareness between K through 12 as what our colleagues and counterparts are doing. So the feedback from our faculty and our colleagues has been so great about that so far. And each committee is run by myself and an elementary administrator. So there's just a high level of involvement. And what each group has managed to do so far is engage the faculty at large, which in various ways, which is wonderful. I mean, we talked several meetings ago about faculty voice being something we'd like to increase over time. And that's happening here through the work of the committees. What we're doing is, depending on the needs of each committee, one of the committees reached out to faculty before we even met to gain a sense of teacher efficacy and in that area of the discipline. How well do they feel they've been trained, or what resources do they have, what resources do they need. Another committee utilized a shared effort from the faculty to review the learning standards and garner feedback and faculty insights as to sort of, what are they noticing? What are they wondering about these learning standards as they relate to the way that we do instruction here? And all of that information is flowing in and out so that the committees can do their work even better, which is just, it's working really well so far. And we've, everyone's met once already, and we'll all be meeting again before the December break. So I want to celebrate the, if we can go back one slide.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I want to celebrate the passion, the dedication, the energy that our colleagues are bringing to the task. And in each of their own ways, each committee that's met has engaged in a shared exploration of the topic. Whether that means we've reviewed learning standards, we've done shared reading together. In one case, we rolled up our sleeves and dived into a model instructional experience and put ourselves in the shoes of learners. And then we took a deep dive. In each case, we reflected on our areas of strength, because we have plenty. And then we set some short-term goals, something that we can have like an immediate upgrade, and some long-term goals, things that might take a year or longer, but are really worth sinking our teeth into, because we're going to see some great benefits when we do the work. And then the next task for each committee is to keep that momentum up and continue learning together and specify action steps. I want to read something that one of the teachers gave as feedback that I think really captures it well. The teacher wrote, it's challenging for me to know that there are so many intricate parts of becoming a strong reader and writer. So how do we figure out the best approaches without anything falling to the wayside? If the answer was easy, we wouldn't need the committee. So it just illustrates how important it is, the work that we do together. And so we've come up with goals, and we came up with some short and some long-term goals. And just to give a sense of what those look like, so that you know what we're looking forward to, we're going to be examining the current systems that we have, because some of them are very strong. The work of the districts, you know, recently has been prior to COVID. I know that there was a lot of work done in selecting a math program and in refining and tightening up our RTI program. And so we want to build upon those things. And now we have new circumstances in society. We have new research that's out there. So we want to revise, we want to update, and we want to recognize that across the 3 buildings in the district, a wonderful goal is to make sure that our children have a very consistent experience throughout. So that's something that's going to take a team to devise. And then some more concrete examples. Well, short term, we can clarify our scope and sequence documents so everybody knows exactly what's happening. And for more longer term goals, we can really sink our teeth into what does it mean to have a robust curriculum? How do we write that together? And how does that look common across the grade levels and the disciplines? And we can get into a years-long project on curriculum mapping. And you know, having these good conversations about best practices, finding out what it's going to take to scale up PD so that every faculty member is reached in the ways that they need to be reached. And of course, I said striving for district-wide consistency. That's our ultimate goal. And then, of course, some of the positive byproducts of doing this kind of work, through conversations, it's very organic. Interdisciplinary opportunities emerge. As I said before, the secondary teachers' participation encourages these new like connections between grade level bands. And we're making great use of our grade level meeting time. It's sort of like embracing the entire faculty to provide and inform the work, which is going to make for an outcome that feels genuine for everyone. So I just can't say enough about our faculty. I've only been here for a short time, but it was quickly evident to me how passionate everyone is and how skilled and talented. We're very fortunate to work with the people that we have here. And so it's an honor and a pleasure for me to be the person who gets to coordinate all the good thinking.
Thank you. And our goal 3 is focused on sense of belonging and inclusivity, making sure that every single child in the school district feels supported, cared for, and in their education and in their growth and learning development. So Ms. Macris, our assistant superintendent for PBS, is going to focus on that area.
So the crux of goal 3, as Dr. Ferris said, is just to make sure that every student feels safe when they come to school, feels that they have a purpose within the school. This goal is a conjunction of 3 departments: the special education department, the PPS department, and curriculum instruction. So it's not just about separate activities that schools do, but working together to really make that the fabric of the school district, and also integrating whole child philosophy and SEL into instruction. So we do this in a multi-tiered approach, and I just want to note before I continue that some of the examples used tonight are certainly not all inclusive of everything that's being done in the 3 schools, because they're doing, the 5 schools, excuse me, they're doing a lot, so I just highlighted some. So we approach this goal in a multi-tiered approach. The first is community connection. So for example, we kicked off with our color run this year. We had the Islip Goes Purple initiative, which is drug and alcohol prevention, World Mental Health Day, anti-bullying campaigns, and as Dr. Ferris mentioned before, the High School Community Connect Day. Why are these community connections so important? So that our students and children realize that schools are microcosms of society. So there are small society when the kids are there, and to realize that the connections they make in high school, elementary, middle, connected to Sayville as a greater town, and then the larger world is really important. So we're really proud of all our community events and organizations that we have through the year. Secondly, we're committed to parent workshops and participation. This year, we will basically have a parent workshop every month of the year. Every month this year, we had our first one, our anti-bullying workshop in October. November 14th, we're going to invite in Amanda Jesser from the Crime Victims Center, and she's going to speak to Erin's Law and Megan's Law. Other topics for this year, we're going to have a presentation on anxiety, social media dangers, eating disorders, and other safety concerns. And I just want to note, we are open to feedback. We picked these topics because these are topics that parents have reached out about and said we would like a little more information. Last year, we did a presentation with the 5th precinct on social media that was well received. This year, eating disorders and healthy nutrition came up. So we're going to actually have Dr. Jacobs from Stony Brook University come present. So if there's any parents in the audience here tonight that has a topic that they think is pressing and would like us to bring in an expert on it, we're open to that. And for this number 2, I just want to mention, we've always had a great rapport with our PTAs and SEPTA. And particularly this year, I just want to give a shout out to every PTA and the SEPTA organization. We work so closely and they're always so supportive and willing to jump in and support us. So it's been phenomenal. Number 3, building SEL committees and instruction. So there's been tons of activities at all the schools. For example, we have monthly lessons in every elementary classroom, which is delivered by a social worker. So self-esteem was the month of October. The high school admin and faculty and staff did an anti-bullying campaign at the high school. We have a brand new wellness room. I apologize, the picture is not that clear, in the upper right-hand corner. Students actually have a choice to go to the wellness room and learn coping strategies, mindfulness activities. The kids last year told us that they didn't like being mandated to do these things. They wanted it to be more of a choice. So we actually shifted. So as part of phys ed on a weekly basis, kids can choose to go to the wellness room. And one of our proudest moments this year is there was a small group of young women that went down and told one of the teachers that was in the wellness room that we never felt like we had a safe space in the high school until this room, and now we feel like this is our safe space. So we're giving kids the autonomy to choose what they want to do, but we're seeing the benefit. Sunrise Drive had a kickoff with our high school peer leaders. Lincoln Avenue Elementary instituted Lincoln Leader of the Month. At the middle school, we had some health push-ins with LICAB. Our Family Connect nights continue. One of our social workers is doing trauma-informed classroom instruction, professional development for our teachers. Cherry Avenue has an exciting digital detox campaign coming up, and a parent resilience workshop. Again, these are just a few snippets of the activities that we're doing. And then lastly, number 4, stakeholder voice. So we meet with a district-wide SEL committee, which is composed of district office administrators, building administrators, teachers, PPS staff, and parents. We meet on a quarterly basis. We talk about what's working in our schools, what needs improvement, and what we can do in the future. And then my favorite committee that we have is we have high school student roundtables and a middle school student roundtable. I'm meeting with the high school roundtable tomorrow, And that's when we ask the kids, how do you feel about coming to the high school? How do you feel about coming to the middle school? What's working well? What do you enjoy? What don't you enjoy? And we do the best to try to incorporate those suggestions into our practices here. So we're doing a lot of great stuff. Shout out to all our faculty and staff, our parents, and our community, and we look forward to continuing to grow.
Thank you. And those two kind of components, the learning component, which is curriculum instruction and delivery, and the caring component, which is sense of belonging. And if you look at the research in schools, you can't have one and not the other. And if the most robust school districts have both operating on high levels, and I just want to compliment everybody involved because these goals are important. They make the difference for kids, and you guys are leading that in brilliant ways. You also have to be able to finance it properly and make sure that the district is using taxpayer dollars well. So I want to turn it over to Ms. Messarola, who's going to talk about goal 4, which is our fiscal planning.
Thank you, Dr. Pev. Tomorrow is actually the official kickoff of our 2024-2025 budget season. The board was presented this evening with a draft calendar for all of our presentations, and we will start to meet with all of our department heads and go over those sections of the budget. This will be my first budget process here in Sayville. I'm very excited to have those conversations with each of our building administrators and department heads. The budget is a management tool, and the way I like to describe it is that it's an educational plan expressed in a monetary format that lays out what it is that we need to operate and provide, a prudent plan that includes all of those exciting programs that we want to provide for our students. So that is the first part of the fiscal planning. Next, infrastructure. It's very important also for us not only to maintain our infrastructure, our buildings and surroundings, but also to improve upon them. And during the summer, we had updates to the different capital projects that took place in our district through a progression of photos. We are also planning as part of the budget too, what our 2024-25 capital projects will be. It will be a continuation of the bonded work for the remaining schools for our roofs, as well as capital projects that are funded through our general fund budget with the improvements to additional elementary schools and bathrooms. Another part of our infrastructure, which we're excited to embark on, is an energy performance contract. This will be, I think, a part 3, but we engaged Energia, which is a consultant that we worked with for a request for proposal for vendors for energy performance contract. We had 2 vendors present their proposals. One is being selected, and there will be a presentation made to the board next meeting, November 15th, and we'll get to see the vendor, and it's encompasses solar panels with learning components, but also maybe tying in some boiler project work and other things. So I look forward to that presentation next board meeting. The other thing with regard to infrastructure, it's very important to have a 5-year capital plan. That has not been updated in a bit. I've had conversations with our architect, so I'm looking forward to it's something that should be updated. It encompasses our enrollment, our reserves, as well as our needs in a prioritized list. So I'm going to be working to improve and put in place a revised 5-year capital plan. It takes in what we haven't done and just kind of updates it. With regard to security, it's important to keep both our students and staff safe, and we have made some enhancements to the 2023-24 year with the start of that, so we are also going to be having a presentation next board meeting on what those security enhancements have been. So that's an important part of what is on our radar also. And with that, as a chair of the district-wide health and safety committee, we had a very well attended our first meeting last week, and it engaged all of our different stakeholders here, administrators, our fire, police, guards, staff in our building. So it was a really good meeting, and I'm looking forward to working with that group in the coming year. And lastly, it's important for us to safeguard our assets, but also maximize our return on our investments. And one of the programs that I would like to have presented to the board, which will be this evening by Mr. Chris Starr from NICLAS, will occur in just a little bit, but it's a program where we can make sure that we are getting the largest return on our investments. School districts are limited in what they may invest in, but this is a cooperative plan with other municipalities, and I'm excited to get the feedback from our board and see what we might be able to do with that.
Great, thank you. And so we have 4 basic goals, 2 on instruction, 1 on sense of belonging, 1 on fiscal planning. And then one of the things that was very important to the Board of Education when you hired me a year ago was communication and transparency. And so, we've been talking about how do we send out emails, how do we communicate both from the teacher level to the district level. Goal 5 is about communication, and Will Seuss is here to talk a little bit about Parent Square and just how we're using Parent Square both in the classroom level, the building level, and the district.
Good evening. Thank you guys for allowing members of the board for allowing me some time to do this. It's going to be very simple and painless, no tech talk or nerd words. Dr. Ferris, if you can click communication. And really what I'm going to go over is basically how the communication's been going since September. You got to run the show first, Dr. Ferris, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then take control.
I got it. Okay.
There you go. So basically, Dr. Ferris and I last year were discussing communication and how we could streamline it, unify it, make it simpler, and coming from one location. So being that Dr. Ferris had a background in Parent Square, it was one of the main providers for school districts on Long Island. So I reached out to them. We did our pilot last year. We started it in January with about 20 teachers. By the end of the school year, we were at like 46 teachers using it as part of the pilot. And then over the summer, we put out information that we're going to be using it full time for teacher, administrator, principal, communication with parents and staff. So this first screen, I'm a little, okay, I can read that better. You'll see we have 2,600 students in the system. This system connects directly to our student information system, pulling all of the students that are enrolled in Sayville schools. Staff and teachers 703. I know that looks like a large number, but it encompasses everyone: security, clerical, custodial, teachers, everyone. Parents 2,300. What do you guys think of that number? Does that seem high? Because I think it seems high. Some people think it's low, but the reality is we do have obviously parents that work here, but we have both guardians for all students, including in this system. We included guardians that live in separate households that have step parents. We include them because we want to communicate instruction and safety to anyone that has interaction with the child. So they're in there as well.
So you think that that's a high number?
I thought it was at first because I was looking at a student.
Double the number of students, I mean, roughly,
Most
if
people have 2.5 kids, so I think
Yeah.
it'd be a little less, but
Interesting.
I know why it is what it is, but if you scroll down, Dr. Ferris. So this screen will show you how we're communicating as of September to now. The first bar is email. So all of our communications, whether they're posts or direct messages, will send an email as well. We do have parents that only want text messages for emergencies or updates on things going on in their child's building. Text obviously is something that just started this year where we're mass texting. And that can be between the building and staff, the building and parents, teachers, and just their students' parents.
Right, so this would replace like the
School messenger.
remind one of.
And that's what I was gonna get to that.
Yeah.
So with this product, obviously, we get what's called Student Square. So this year, we started doing push-ins and trainings with our staff, mostly at the secondary level right now, for using Student Square. And what that is it's remind that we control and we don't have any issues with ed law, or any of the New York State PII regulations. None of this data leaves our district as far as there's no one else, there's no provider that has this information. So at the secondary levels, right now, what they're doing is the teachers that have been trained are using Student Square to message via the app and email with all their students. And those trainings are going to continue for the next 2 months, I'm assuming 3 months, as we do the push-ins in each class.
And if parents download the app, they not only get the communications, but they can look at student schedules, they can join groups,
Yes.
they can participate in other ways.
They also, if you scroll down a little bit, I'll get to that part of what else it does. So if you see that number 12,231 direct messages, those are messages that are most likely either from building leaders to their staff or teachers to their students' parents. They're not district-wide messages, those are direct to groups. The 14 forms, we've used forms, which we just enabled this year, earlier in the year, for signups for whatever it may be. So there's 14 times we've done that. That's new. The thing that surprised me was the photos, videos shared. I thought that was a lot already. I'm like, I don't even remember doing that training, to tell you the truth, but they're really using that a lot as well too. Obviously, the posts are, again, large messages put out. It could be email, it could be text. It depends on the sender and what they want.
And as we get more used to this, parents can fill out permission slips from this, parents can pay for field trips directly through the system, that's kind of coming down.
Yeah, that's coming down to 5. But if you look down at the lower number 3,400, those are requests for volunteers district-wide in the buildings that teachers or staff have reached out to parents for volunteers. So it's definitely being utilized a lot more than I really thought it would be at this point, but and most of our interaction with parents is they love it. There is a small contingency that, you know, they don't want to be notified about everything, but I figure more information the better. As you can see, 933 parents have interacted with our posts in September. And interaction could be anything as much as liking something, not liking something, or texting back, or messaging back. And the volunteer number on that is high too. That's great. If you go down, Dr. Ferris, you'll see the distribution in the schools, all schools and how they're using it. So 40 direct posts are directly from admin on that first one. And then you'll see the other buildings. Just, if you guys, I'm going to be sending this out to you guys on screenshots in an email tomorrow. I just didn't want to bombard you before the meeting, so you can look over the numbers, and if you have any questions, ask. But just keep in mind that on these dashboards, the administrators in this building don't show an admin because they're district-wide. So that would be under what's called district. So if you look at the post meet by the administration building, there's 0. But as we all know, Dr. Ferris uses it every day. Ms. Macrich used it yesterday. I've used it both days. So you won't see it under admin. Can you go down to the? Yep, I just wanted to see that. These are our top users as of right now. You know, authors of messages. You guys have any questions?
Will I still get a snow day phone call on my landline?
Yes, it does.
On my landline.
If you look at this, when I send you the information, you'll see it.
Oh, yeah.
We have done a few
One
calls.
says everything. Get that. Will I still get a snow day call on my landline?
If you look, there is a section on here that has voice calls, and it's 1 or 2. Most of them are just tests that we've been doing to make sure that we have everybody in the system. But yes, we do, it will do voice calls. But believe it or not, most parents have asked to use their cell phone number instead of their home. Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to turn over to the board in general. We presented 5 goals to you, so you can certainly ask questions about or comment on any of the 5 goals. Obviously, over the summer, we created these goals together based on the feedback from the staff, the parents, the families, and the study that we did. And now we have these goals, and the purpose of this meeting was to show you how these things are now underway and moving forward. So if you have questions or comments,
I'd just like to thank
use
you.
your microphone,
Sorry.
which we also added so we can.
I'd just like to thank you. You know, the community communicated through us very clearly that transparency and communication was a priority, and to craft the goals, and then just to thank the administrative team and the staff for executing those goals. I mean, obviously, it's well underway and we've accomplished a lot in a very short time. So we really appreciate it and excited to see where it takes us.
And it's one thing to create goals, it's another thing to achieve. Them. So we want to not only create good goals that are helpful for students, but we want to make sure that we're following up and achieving them on all levels.
I want to just compliment you, the staff, the teachers, the community in the idea of that buy-in, that we're all going in the right direction and we're all doing it together. And I think that's really important. I've seen many places where sometimes agendas get pushed forward, but there's no buy-in. I think that taking the time last year to really get that buy-in and input is really important, and that's why it's paying off dividends now.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's so impressive, our teaching staff and just the number of volunteers for the committees, the instructional committees, but also the committees that work with Jillian's office to create events. It's just through the roof, and that's because of our staff. And so we're really proud of the work they're doing. It does show that this is important to them, caring and learning and making sure the kids are, supported. It's important to our staff.
I mean, what I would add is, what I like that came out of the whole process is customized for each school. So it's not just a top-down goal, that customized for each area. But that I think is impressive.
And the concept is something called connected autonomy. That if people have autonomy and choice in how they do things, they'll be happier with doing them. So if you tell people this is the goal, you have to do it this way, there's not going to be blind. But if each school can have connected autonomy, where they have the autonomy to create their own, but within a structure, then you're aiming for the same thing, but it's in your own way. And I think that's what we were really going for.
I will actually say something. One of the things that I appreciate is, a lot of parents, community members, teachers put a lot of time in last year. To kind of really, we asked them what they thought, what their goals were. To then take that and shape it into goals and to follow those goals and to report back. I think the message to those people is their time was well spent.
Yeah, there were some parents who called and said, "Are you really going to read these surveys?
Right.
Are we wasting our time?" And our hope is that, when people fill out those surveys, we went through every single one of them, tried to synthesize it, and hopefully parents or staff or students who fill out the survey will see something in there that they kind of commented on or asked for, built into it.
But I think in the future, then when you ask for input, people are going to offer it.
Yeah.
Because you did something with it. So I mean, that's a credit to you, to your leadership, to everybody who spent money trying to do this. I appreciate it.
Okay, so the next part of this presentation is the financial planning from a presentation from an outside vendor. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yes, so cooperative investment plan is one where municipalities are pulling their resources together, and through this program, you're able to maximize a return on investment. So I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Chris Starr of NICLAS.
Good evening, everyone. That's me. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for having me. Prefer I stand here or maybe at the podium so I can see everyone. Podium would be great. So just to get us started, has anyone heard of New York Class in the room? Obviously, I know Rhonda has heard of New York Class and been a participant in the past. Just by show of hands, has anyone heard of the program? Awesome. Anyone in the public just curious if they've heard of New York Class or NICLAS, as a lot of folks know it.
I could say I've heard of the concept, but not New York Class.
Awesome. And I appreciate that. Just to give some background, New York Class has been around since 1989. It's a local government investment pool. The easiest way to think of it is really like an online savings account. So I did give out some materials to all the trustees and board members, have a copy of those materials. And then I put some extra copies if anyone in the room is curious to take some information with you. If you have a friend or a colleague or relative that serves in the municipal space or at a district, a fire department, etc. So New York Class, this first sheet I'm going to kind of speak to loosely. It's our pool fact sheet. Feel free, I'd like this to be interactive, throw up a hand or give me a shout if you have any questions. I'll just pause and we can address them as we go. So New York Class, an investment pool. We started in 1989. We have more than 1,250 participants in the program across New York State. So we have counties, cities, towns, villages, fire districts, fire departments, special districts like water districts, and school districts as well. There's about 400 school districts in the program across the state. There's more than 60 school districts just on Long Island that are in the program. One of the 4 sheets I gave you is a list of the Long Island participants, just for your reference, if you'd like to take a look. And see, what neighbors and other municipalities and districts just on the islands are in the program. For reference, the county of Nassau, the county of Suffolk, both invest with New York Class. In addition to those 60+ school districts, 50+ villages, and a number of other entities. So what makes New York Class so special is the interest rate that New York Class provides all of our participants in the program. Everyone earns the same exact interest rate. There is no choosing favorites based on deposit amounts or size of your entity. Everyone earns the same cooperative investment rate. And that daily interest rate today actually just ticked up tonight to 5.30%. So all the participants earn that interest just based on whatever their balance is in the program. And I will go into some of the other benefits in addition to the interest in just a minute. But I know that's kind of usually the wow factor and why are we talking about this? Really, it's safeguarding the assets, like Rhonda said, but ultimately earning the most on the tax dollar in a safe, legal way. So with that, I can segue into the legality of New York Class. The program was created underneath the infrastructure of the Comptroller Office and New York State General Municipal Law. So there's a couple of articles in GML under Chapter 24, Articles 3A and 5G that relate to cooperative investing, just like New York Class. So the program was created to run legally underneath, GML. So this cool fact sheet shows you a pie chart to give you an idea of the products that New York Class is cooperatively invested in. And it's an investment pool. So we have everyone's assets pooled together in the program and invested on a cooperative basis. So all of the participants are invested in the same products, which are listed here, bank deposits, repurchase agreements, and US Treasuries, which are all allowable investments for the school district and these other municipalities in the program. We just do the work and the investing for you. So, this will make things easier for your treasurer if they're looking at CDs or treasuries themselves and rolling and renewing these, because we're doing that work for you and giving as much of the interest back as possible to our participants. From a safety perspective, New York Class is rated AAAM by S&P Global Ratings. So that's the highest money market rating available for a local government investment pool like New York Class, which really speaks to the safety and the soundness of the program. Since 1989, New York Class has never lost $1 of invested principal for any of our participants before. And we've never actually had to utilize any of the collateral behind those investments either. So really just speaks to how safe and straightforward the investments are, the collateral and the insurance is behind the investments. And if anyone has any questions about collateral or safety, maybe now's a good time I could answer any direct questions. As part of the pre-read materials that I believe Rhonda or the district clerk shared with you, there was a copy of the monthly collateral statement that all our participants get. If you had a chance to look or have any questions, or if you want to, shoot me an email or have questions later, we can address them. But obviously know how important the safety of your deposits here at the school are. So if you think of anything, feel free to raise a hand.
Regarding the collateral. Regarding the collateral. So how does that actually work in this process?
So in this process, the collateral is commingled across all the participants in the program. The bank deposits are either collateralized 100% by Federal Home Loan Bank letters of credit, and there's a portion also that's FDIC insured. So just like how the district's individual bank account will have a limit for FDIC insurance, the $250,000 per depositor. We have a $200 million limit for the pool that covers FDIC insurance. Any of the bank deposits beyond that have the Federal Home Loan Bank letters of credit behind them. And in 90 years of the Federal Home Loan Bank being in existence as a government-sponsored enterprise, they've never had a credit loss before. So those letters of credit, God forbid there was an issue at one of the banks we have deposits with for New York Class participants, we would submit a withdrawal certificate and have those funds replenished immediately. We've never had to do that before, but it is in place. God forbid there's an issue, with one of the banks we have deposits with. And then the repurchase agreements in the portfolio are collateralized 102% or better by US Treasuries or US government agencies. And the US Treasuries don't require collateral because they're backed by the full faith and credit of the US government. who has never defaulted on a US Treasury, even if we have our doubts sometimes about the US government. Usually here's when I joke, if they did default on a Treasury at the government level, there would be much bigger issues than New York class in our country and our world. The last thing to point out on this sheet is just the governing board for New York class. There's a 15-member governing board that is elected by the participants in the program to represent the program. And there are some Long Island individuals on the board, a couple from villages, John Giordano from the village of Lynbrook. He's the administrator there. He's been on the board since 2016. Donna Ludmere is the treasurer down at the village of Saltaire. She's been on the board since 2020. And we have a new school district board member just this year, Andrew Casal, who was at Mineola Schools, came onto the board just recently. He fell in love with the program. The board has loved the safety and the interest that they're earning with the program. And he actually just moved over to Seaford Schools just recently. So that's kind of it for the fact sheet and the overview, if anyone has any questions. Yep.
So are districts able to invest to a level that like we could avoid the interest on tax anticipation notes? Like we use this as a funding mechanism to kind of.
Yeah, great question. So this is the first time in more than 10 years we're getting questions about arbitrage rebates, which basically means when you take out debt and then you earn too much interest against that debt, you have to rebate it back, depending on the scenarios. So we're not your financial advisor to help you, in that situation to rebate back any interest, but absolutely, the guidance is to earn as much interest as you can. Right now, really, unless you're just issuing that debt, you should be out earning in interest. And Rhonda, if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, I'm just to mention, I think maybe what you might be alluding to is the being able to use reserve monies instead of going out for short-term borrowing. So that is something that has been brought to legislation for a while. There is no move on that. Each of our reserves are established for a specific purpose. So for instance, one of the things I would be suggesting or recommending for a ninth class investment would be our newly established capital reserve. But we currently are not able to use our reserves. Yes.
But to the point of the interest rate, if you have $1 million at 5.5% interest or something. 5.3, that's a significant amount of interest that you're saving for every $1 million that you invest.
And it also compounds daily.
Yeah.
Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so that's a good segue. I'll move away from kind of the overview and just this fact sheet to our features and benefits brochure. It spells out a number of the benefits with New York class. The interest is generally the most exciting. The interest compounds and pays all of our participants on a daily basis. So that 5.30% is the daily interest rate today. But it is very predictable with whatever the Federal Reserve is doing to the benchmark interest rate. So the Fed has hiked, if anyone knows, 11 times in the last, since March of last year, so about a year and a half, the benchmark interest rate. And New York class's daily yield comes on for our participants very quickly. So within just a couple of days, the rate is resetting. Our bank deposits are going up. The repurchase agreements are increasing those rates. So it's moving up naturally for you as treasuries are also maturing in the portfolio. So when the Fed is hiking interest rates, this is the quickest way to have that interest come on automatically for the school district's deposits. And then the opposite actually holds true as well. When the Fed is cutting interest rates, since there's treasuries in the portfolio, they'll hold on to those rates a bit longer, as opposed to generally, a typical banking, checking, or savings account. They're going to cut that rate as soon as the Fed, changes the benchmark interest rate. It's just the difference in how those investment products work. So that's a brief synopsis just on the rate. And to be fully transparent, the way New York class makes money is we have a very small management fee. It's between 12 and 13 basis points, or 0.12 to 0.13%. And it is set and managed by the governing board for New York class. But a very small fee compared to, what the district may be earning right now in its current deposits. Just to throw a number out there, say, you have a bank that's paying you 4% right now, and the Fed has interest rates between 5.25% to 5.5%, and they're really keeping, 1.5% of the interest as opposed to just 0.12%. But just like to add that because obviously there's a little bit of profit. You have to keep the program running, pay SMP for the ratings, pay the custodian bank, which is US Bank and which safeguards the assets and the collateral for the participants. So that small fee goes a very long way for this program. So some of the other benefits that are just spelled out, and I'll go through.
I have a question.
Yes.
Duration. So when you put money into that situation, how long does that stay?
Yep, so everybody has full access to their funds on a daily basis. It's completely liquid. So if the district wanted to put in just for a couple of days, 10 million bucks to earn interest and take their 10 million back, you have no restrictions. There's no minimum balance requirements, so you can have $0 in the account and you'll never see a bill from New York Class. We actually don't do bills for anything. So outside of the small management fee that we take, the district would never see a bill. There's no transaction fees. There's no cost to join the program. There's no limits on transactions or the number of sub accounts that you have set up. And it's liquid every day. So you can move money by ACH or by wire right on our portal between the district's local bank or banks and New York Class. And in terms of safeguarding and safety with the internet these days, it does require multi-factor authentication to even log into our online portal. And then you can strictly only move funds through an authorized signer, and you can set up secondary approval if you'd like as well. But you can only move funds between the banks that you've approved, having linked to New York Class and New York Class. So there's no way someone can log into your account and send money to their personal account, to the Cayman Islands, or any of the things you're hearing in the news sometimes these days. So we take great pride in the safety and cyber secure world we're in today. So I'll pause there. I'm almost getting through this.
I mean, I think just to explain to the public, with the school district, sometimes we're flush with money when we get our tax money from the state, and sometimes we're short on money because when they give it to us. So I think in theory, this is kind of like, when we have those extra funds, we could, rather than have it sitting in a checking account, earning nothing, you could. The state control allows you to put it into a fund, which is the collecting conservative fund.
Yes, that's true. What I like about NICLAS is that you can have one account and sub funds. So you could create like a sub fund for each of your reserves that would be independently tracked. And then also you could have a money market portion, whereas you say, when you have more money in the banks, you could derive the larger interest rates with that. Absolutely.
Years ago, we used to go out and commit to CDs at certain banks, and again, that's very administrative as well.
Yeah, the rates that I've been given recently on CDs is just 4%. And even in other types of money market accounts, it's just 4%.
And more restricted.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the CDs, you lock into that interest rate.
Yeah.
So especially when you're in a rising rate environment, you want to try not to lock up any funds, because you could be sorry when a month or two goes by and you locked in and all of a sudden the rates were increased by the Fed. So with that, there's just a couple of extra sheets. One was the participant list I mentioned earlier. The other one is just a sample shot for the month of October for earnings with New York Class. It also gives you a running monthly history of where New York Class's rates were at each of the month ends dating back to November of last year. Our website has our rates going back 10 years. But like I said, there's really no surprises. It's very closely aligned to what the Federal Reserve's rate is, or the Fed funds rate. So for example, 10 million for the month of October with New York Class, earning nearly $45,000.
Just a very simple question.
Yeah.
I see your membership list. I mean, it really has exploded in the last 2 years. Is that just because you're kind of putting yourself out there a little bit more, or like?
Great question. Yeah, so a couple of factors really. At the end of the day, New York Class works like economy of scale. So the more word gets out on the street, I mean, we've been around since 1989. It's not like we just popped up yesterday.
Right.
But it's the nature of the interest rates, number one, more than anything. During COVID, the Federal Reserve basically had interest rates at zero to make life more livable for all of us during those times. And they quickly realized they had to hike rates quick because of where inflation went. So to combat inflation, they've been hiking interest rates very aggressively, and it's made New York class a lot more attractive. It's a lot harder to convince folks to open an account and tell them in 1 year, you're gonna want these rates. There's no bills, open the account, wait and see. So we tried to do that during COVID, had some success, but it's a lot more marketable in a rising rate environment when, you know, bank rates are struggling to keep up with New York class right behind the Fed rate.
Thank you.
No question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Does anyone else, there's no car I have some. I mean, we'll just give it.
Yeah, Rhonda has your contact.
Yes, she does. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the superintendent's report.
It's wrong, but I need. You want to- So, before I move on to, board discussion, I did, forget to mention something correspondence. So we did have 17 letters regarding soccer pro and against. We also had, received 2 petitions, one regarding, the removal of the superintendent. And then a second petition, for the parking lot issue, around the administration. Okay, so first on the Board of Education discussion is the. We have some webinars that we can attend. One is the hidden bias of good people. That's on November 15th. We also still have the lessons from mass shootings. I actually watched that I think last night, and it's actually pretty good. It is good. It's about the Florida one and the communication issues afterwards, and how districts can better deal with that as well. So that's good training.
Is that one a specific time or we can sign up for it?
No, that one's
No.
available.
Okay.
I forwarded to you, so you should.
All right. It's just a link.
Yeah, I just don't know how long it's available. I
Okay.
just have it out there for.
I'll shoot this was.
Okay. Then we have the in-person training for fiscal governance. That's on November 29th. And we also have topic of Island Hills regarding the community had asked if we were interested in writing a letter. Unfortunately, we didn't receive anything further from that. They sent us one email.
Yeah, I think that the GIA had sent us like an informational email.
Yeah.
The developer Reckler is currently holding like informational meetings. I know I did attend one as a resident, not necessarily as a board member. I wasn't the only one of us that did the same. And I looked back at the prior letter that you did, and this is all based on the previous presentation, like the previous plan. That plan's been rejected.
Yeah.
At this new group of meetings that it's doing, there is no formal plan. It's sort of like this conceptual idea where they were just looking for input. So I'm not against writing a letter. I just don't know what information we would base it on. And I don't think that all of us have attended to have a real fruitful conversation. And I don't know that it's my place, who presented as a resident, to bring the information. I'd be happy to give you a recap. But I think that I just don't know. I'm like trying to formulate the letter in my head, and other than saying everything we said last time, but based on the plan you haven't submitted yet. Like that's basically what we've been saying. Yeah, I mean, I know that the community group that is arguing this, they were at the civic meeting last night, and they feel angst, and they really want to put some pressure on, and they want us to help them do that. And I'm not against doing that. I'm just not sure what it would say. And even the information that they provided us after the last meeting was really a reiteration of the old stuff, so I don't know. I'm kind of torn, I would love to support them, I just don't know exactly what we're supposed to, be against at this point, because there is no formal plan.
Yeah, you can't be against the fact.
Yeah. I do want to say that I think that everybody should request to attend one of those closed meetings. I don't think those meetings should be closed. I don't think this should be a secret, and I don't think they should be cherry picking who they're getting their information from. And if you haven't been invited formally, this goes to everybody. I would request to be invited because this is being paid for by Reckler, and they're going to submit a plan, and they need to hear from as many people as possible.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, just, not on this.
Okay, hold on 1 second. We have one more topic. Then there was the air quality. Topic.
So on Sunday, I was watching 60 Minutes and there was a fascinating brief presentation or I guess article about indoor air quality. And it was specifically targeting schools post-COVID. And basically it was discussing how initially the focus was on surfaces and, obviously masking and distancing. But recent research is really focused on the fact that its transmission is airborne. We're seeing increasing rates of flu, RSV, and that the ideal situation in any office building, whether it be schools or offices, is, I guess, an air exchange rate of somewhere between 4 to 6 times per hour where you're exchanging the air. And then the filtration system having a MERV rating, which is kind of like a more intense filtration system of 13 or higher. Schools, because our building stock is so old, we're beholden to the infrastructure that we have. So, Rhonda was kind enough to reach out, and I guess the max filtration we can have on the unit vents that we recently replaced is 8, or they'll melt. So that's the best we can do there. And if we can just encourage, I know even during COVID too, we really opened up the unit vents to increase airflow. So just in the winter months, as you know, I'm an educator, we're seeing students getting sick with various different ailments. Just if we could open windows, maximize the airflow as much as possible. I just think that would just help reduce transmission of different airborne illnesses in schools. And that was it. And when we talk about the EPC next week, which will be our 3rd EPC, I think we could probably broach the subject again then. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that, just because we all have friends that with children that are starting school maybe for the first time in kindergarten, and because of the pandemic, they haven't had the exposure and the kind of herd instinct. So particularly on the early grades, that ventilation, and that was our focus in COVID. We were less focused on like dividers and more focused on ventilation, which
Which was actually
right.
forward.
Yeah, so I just call attention because again, I just see it a lot from the young grades. There's a lot of kids that are just getting very sick because they have no exposure. So ventilation is only helpful.
So what do you think the discussion is on the balance between airflow and security, right? Because I know we had this discussion last time about first floor windows, you start opening them, it's not secure anymore, or every door has to be shut. I mean, I taught for 18 years and I hated to teach with my door shut. And now it's keep your doors shut, keep your windows shut. And when we start to get into these high flu seasons, high other disease seasons, what is the balance there? And are our unit vents really capable of providing that airflow that we need?
I think a deep dive into the data. What's a more immediate threat and concern results in, more hospitalizations. A good topic for research and discussion.
I agree.
I think the ideal answer would be having windows and doors closed for safety and also having air handlers that provide the maximum flow.
Yeah.
That would be the goal.
The goal. Air conditioning.
Is there anything else for board discussion?
Oh, just that we didn't, I don't know, can we, I don't want the Island Hills people to feel like we didn't support them, so maybe we can swing back and ask them to provide us with information.
I asked Julie to do that.
Okay, all right,
This afternoon, I asked them to go back and they have more information.
Okay.
That we could.
all right, thank you.
Okay. And Yeah, one other question I had was regarding the parking situation. If you have any update on.
Yeah, so we all recognize that parking is becoming an issue. When we created the leads with the Suffolk County BOCES for the nursing program, their numbers have increased. So it's a full capacity program, and now parking around the complex is tight. Especially on the days where we have a morning adult ed program where there's yoga classes or different classes. Now there's parking that is even more tight, and there's some stuff on the street. So we had met with some members of the community who filled out a petition to fix the situation. We have two things going on. One, we're going to open the parking lot on the far side of the athletic field and make that special for adult ed. So they have a special place to park. They can walk down the sidewalk and go right into the building. So that's one solution. We also reached out to the local Pastor Noack at the church, the library, and the BOCES and a meeting to look at the different spaces and see if we also coordinate events. So for example, if we have yoga at the same time the church has an event, at the same time the library has an event, then suddenly we have too many cars. So if we could stagger the events or be creative about that, that would be another way to kind of address that. So we're definitely coming up with solutions, but it is tight with all the different programs, and it's nice because we have all these events, nice adult ed, we have library events, we have church events, and we also have a nice nursing program that is paying revenue to the district, which helps us with getting our taxes down. So it's a nice thing that's happening. It's just we have to organize the parking so that it doesn't become a problem.
So we can move on to our public comment section. So before we start to do that, I'd just like to read our statement. The Board of Education appreciates feedback from the community, and we recognize free speech as one of our fundamental freedoms. These freedoms are not without restrictions. We follow regulations specified by law and board policy, and we encourage our community members to offer public comment. According to Sayville School Board Policy 1230, we request the following. Participants in public session must demonstrate civility as they address the board and the community. 30 minutes have been set aside for comments by the public. The board reserves the right to limit or extend public participation if it deems necessary. Comments and questions from the public are limited to 3 minutes per person and should be related to school matters. Speakers are requested to identify themselves or the group they represent and direct their comments to the board. The board will not permit discussion involving individual students, district personnel, or community members. The full policy is available on the district website, and we appreciate your support to have a productive meeting. Thank you. So if I could have a show of hands, who would like to speak tonight? Okay, I guess you can go first if you'd like.
Thank you for having me. I'm here on behalf of the Sayville boys soccer team. Members of the board. My wife and I are lifelong residents of Sayville, and our son is a member of the Sayville boys varsity soccer team. I'm also the 1992 valedictorian of Sayville High School, and my wife graduated in 1992 from Sayville as well with honors. I believe I am in a unique position to address the board, as my family has been one of the few Jewish families in Sayville community since 1970. My parents were founding members of the B'nai Israel Temple in Oakdale and have held various positions on the Brotherhood and Sisterhood of the Temple over the years. I bring up my background as I understand firsthand what it's like to grow up in the small Jewish minority here in Sayville. My parents worked hard to teach Jewish traditions to my classmates growing up, and my wife, who is not Jewish, has done the same. I assure you there is not a teacher at Lincoln Avenue or Cherry Avenue, sorry, Sunrise, who does not remember the smell of my family cooking latkes at Hanukkah, using the same frying pan my mother used to cook latkes at Lincoln Avenue many, many years ago. And so you can imagine my shock when I read Dr. Ferris's email indicating that Sayville soccer had a culture of racism and anti-Semitism. And I am here tonight to ask the Sayville School Board whether anyone here, after reading the second paragraph of the district-wide email announcing the cancellation of the season, did not interpret this paragraph to mean that the current team members were the ones exhibiting anti-Semitic and racist behavior. And I ask you and Dr. Ferris if this board truly believed there was a culture of racism and anti-Semitism in Sayville soccer, which they have known about for several years. What have they done to educate our boys? What did they do to reach out to the Jewish community for guidance? Who did they work with to review the accusations they were about to make in a district-wide email to the entire community? I understand there was a prior incident to investigate, and as a member of the Jewish community, I certainly believe these investigations should be taken seriously. However, I strongly feel that the school administration used careless judgment and damaging language in claiming that the current team behavior, the current culture includes anti-Semitic and racist behavior, and do not feel the follow-up statements went far enough to address the situation. This brings me to my second point. My wife, Kim, is a licensed mental health counselor who is also a member of Sayville School's Social Emotional Learning Council. Therefore, she is also in a unique position to assess the administration's handling of the hazing incident, starting with the restorative session that we were informed took place via an email sent through final forms. My wife is counseling clients tonight, so I will raise her questions for her. Sayville Schools has excellent psychologists, social workers, and SEL members. Were any of the members of this distinct community invited to this restorative session? Were any of these members included in the individual meetings with our boys? Has any planning taken place with these members to offer services individually or as a group to our boys? Unfortunately, none of the members of this community seem to have been included. I respect that our athletic department personnel have advanced education degrees, but without including these members, the focus of each step of the way appears to have been interrogation, punishment, and accusations, rather than counseling and guidance. My wife and I,
Please, sorry to interrupt.
Let him speak. It's 4 people speaking. We waited around. There's 4 people speaking.
I have one last conclusion.
It'll
Okay,
get into 30 minutes.
Okay.
30
My
minutes.
wife and I want to make it clear that the facts of the current incident, as we understand them, indicate hazing did occur and the situation had to be addressed in a serious manner. However, we do not feel the administration's response, both leading up to the district-wide emails and continuing through tonight, has been appropriate, well-informed, or restorative for our boys in the Sayville soccer community. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Hi, I'm here as well to speak on behalf of the soccer group here. I had a few things planned in the beginning, but it's ironic that goal 3 is the sense of belonging for students. Because our boys had none of that. We had no support whatsoever. And that's the premise of what I wanted to get through is our boys are the ones suffering the most due to all of this. As an educator myself, the students are supposed to come first, not in this case. We feel as if the abrupt cancellation of the soccer season was extremely hurtful for these boys, obviously, and resulted in losses for these athlete boys. It resulted in the loss of a structured team environment, the loss of the identity associated with being a student athlete, the loss of the dreams that go with a promising season, the loss of an active lifestyle that stimulates their body and mind, and mainly loss of camaraderie. Which brings me to the fact of what my son said about 3 weeks before this whole incident happened. He stood in the kitchen, he was like, you know what, Mom and Dad, I absolutely love soccer. I love the boys on my team. This team is awesome. They're all so nice. I love how the 11 seniors who are hurting the most over this whole thing have taken me out to dinner after most games. It's just super, super fun. Then, after this whole situation, obviously we sat him down because we were worried about his mental being. My extended family is worried about his mental being along with the other students. And his one remark that he keeps repeating over and over and over again is our team is being portrayed as such a bad group of boys, and we are absolutely not. We all know this as a community. They're being really ostracized, and it's just extremely, extremely heartbreaking what's happening to these boys. Once again, we're in education. It's the kids first. They're totally last right now, totally last, and they're all hurting bad. Lastly, I moved to Sayville 25 years ago, and I used to tease my family and friends from all over the island, and I would say, come out to my cute little town. Now, because of all of this, our cute little town is being labeled as anti-Semitic and racist. which turns into affecting the whole entire community. And it's, once again, it's just extremely heartbreaking what's happening. Thank you.
Next. Anyone else?
I just have Jeff Gompers.
Yes.
I was here last time. I sent an email on October 19th to you guys, the board, listing out 15 questions. I'd like to know when we're gonna get the answers to this, for the Sayville public to know.
Well, we reviewed the questions tonight, and if we're able to, what's up? Yeah, excuse me, as a Board of Education, we meet twice a month. We cannot do board business via email, at somebody's house. It has to be done, as a board meeting. So we got the letter last week, and we reviewed it today, and if we're able to formulate a response, we have to have it reviewed, and then we'll give a response.
Okay, and is the board gonna put up a vote to terminate Ferris?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'd like that answer too.
What else? Yes.
Is there anybody else here to speak about soccer, or, because I didn't want to interrupt that? Okay. You are here? No. No, okay. I'm not here for that topic, but I appreciate everything. My children graduated years ago, they were involved in the soccer program, and I concur with them that the emails that went out to the community were a disgrace, they really were, and I'm a longtime member of this community. I'm going to talk about the parking. I appreciate what was said here tonight, but my name is Tim Morris. I'm here to speak about the parking, as I said. I'm here on behalf of the enrolled people in the adult education classes. My wife and I have lived directly across the street from this administration building for 47 years. We have watched over the years as more and more programs have been added to the district buildings and fields. The parking situation is not a new situation. These buildings are utilized for political office elections and the school district elections. With each new program and athletic event, parking has become more and more difficult. A number of years ago, our new library was built on Green Avenue. This added to the inadequate parking situation. I'm sure most residents are very pleased that the district is ensuring that these facilities are being used and bringing in needed revenue to the district. The adults who utilize the adult ed program are very grateful for what the district offers. This year, BOCES either added to or expanded upon their nursing program at the old junior high. Since the students start arriving prior to 8 a.m., the lot is usually completely full by 8:30 or shortly after. First exercise class begins at 9:30. So when the adult ed class members arrive, they find that there are very few or more likely no spots available. In addition, there are 2 senior classes at 10:45. On Tuesday and Wednesday. It's very unlikely that they will find a parking spot. People have begun parking on the road on Greeley Avenue. Greeley Avenue from Long Island Railroad to Brook Street is already heavily traveled and dangerous road that's not built to handle the volume and parking along the side of the road. The Sayville School District accounts for most of the increased use of Greeley Avenue over the years. When the district decided to permit BOCES to make such a large expansion of their programs this year, was there anyone who even considered what it would mean to the already overloaded parking and traffic situation? It certainly doesn't seem like it. There's no private business in this town that would be permitted to continue to expand without the proper number of parking spaces for the expected volume of use. As you stated, the petition was delivered to the school district earlier this week. And we request that the district and the board find a solution to the parking situation that the district has created. There's a park, as you mentioned, there's a parking lot at the church. That would be great if they could assist. But I asked the board, after having lived here 47 years, we bought the house knowing we were across from the school district. But the volume of traffic and the danger on this road is out of control. And it rests with this district and with the district alone. It's not any other situation but the district. The district needs to address this and to correct it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to board business now.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
My name is Heather Forster. My son is on the varsity soccer team, and I just want to reiterate some of the things addressed in the petition. On Thursday, October 12th, Dr. Mark Farris released a letter to the Sayville community in which he notified the community members that Sayville boys varsity soccer season was canceled due to hazing activities off campus that included acts of violence and humiliation toward younger players, which was systematic and ongoing throughout the season, and explicitly without any context advised that the behavior extended beyond the season and included additional behavior in the past years that included forms of racism and anti-Semitism. Now, on October 18th, we have backlash from the community, widespread judgment of Sayville students and residents, and racist and anti-Semitism by those outside of the community. The Board of Trustees held an emergency meeting to allow Dr. Farris to explain to the district's actions to the community. During this emergency meeting, Dr. Farris explained that over a 2-day period, most members of the varsity and junior varsity teams were interviewed by the athletic director, the principal, the assistant principal, or some combination, sometimes of all three. And some participants have expressed to their parents that administrators were angry and yelled at them during their interviews. Shockingly, the administration did not notify any parents of any of these interviewees that these interviews were occurring. I myself found out in a parent square driving home in my car. I mean, I'm driving with my friend that's in the community. Her daughter is, her kid, 3 children are not on the soccer team. My son is, and we're finding out at the same exact time what is occurring with the varsity soccer team. The board's mission is to make Sayville Public School a place where students, parents, staff, and community members work together to ensure an unwavering commitment to maximize the potential of all students to become responsible, productive, and citizens of the global community. Dr. Farris's use of language in his initial letter may be described as reckless at best, and he grossly negligent at worst. The release of the initial letter lacks forethought of the consequences and put the reputation and the safety of the Sayville students and athletes in question. The actions of Dr. Farris are a complete and utter failure to the district's mission for the students, the parents, and the community members to work together to maximize the potential of all the students in order to become contributing citizens of a global community. How am I as a parent supposed to help you work with my son if you don't tell me what's going on? There's no transparency here. I mean, I had no idea that this was occurring. I had to show up at the school and ask what exactly was going on. I had no idea about the supreme leader or whatever it was. So Dr. Farris knows his actions were wrong, which is why he publicly admitted wrongdoing by apologizing to the community at the conclusion on October 18th meeting. And then for his inability to foresee the consequences of his actions, including the use of his trigger words as racist and anti-Semitism at a time when Israelis have been massacred in incidents not seen since the Holocaust. For his choice to not consult with others prior to releasing this letter
for the emotional and reputational harm done to former, current, and future students, as well as all of these community members, for his failure to oversee an appropriate investigation conducted by professionals, given to the potential serious consequences for the players and the community, for his failure to work toward and meet the district's mission, for his complete failure to meet his own stated core beliefs, for his actions putting the Sayville students and community at risk, and for the lack of confidence in him by the Sayville community. I implore you as a board to immediately remove Dr. Phelps, and that is what is in this petition, and I don't think enough people in this community have read it.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak?
Yes, I think I would.
No, hold on one second, because I need to allow time. How many more people would like to speak? Oh, okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Lisa Walker. I would like to speak in reference to the meetings on October 11th and October 18th. I'd like to address the Board of Ed's response to the voting taxpaying community members who voiced the concern with Dr. Birch's actions on those two meetings. And also address the appeasement meeting that was held on the 18th for soccer parents. On October 11th, Mr. Pooley, you and Ms. Angelosi interrupted, spoke over, and responded in a dismissive manner to those concerns that were brought that evening. The community members let you know that Dr. Birch's actions and organization affiliation in and out of this boardroom do not align with the community expectations of a board member. It is your responsibility to immediately address concerns or actions brought forward related to a fellow board member. Why didn't an internal investigation get underway related to these concerns with a notification of findings sent out to the community to provide transparency, as was the protocol with the soccer team? Why are you not holding him accountable? As for your meeting on October 18th, community members spoke collectively with very valid concerns related to harmful accusations sent out by Dr. Ferris in a broad public forum, which resulted in negative, hurtful, and questionable safety repercussions to student athletes, their families, and the community members. Clearly, that meeting was arranged to appease the community, as demonstrated, Mr. Cooley, by your robotic response on a pre-printed statement which did not address the multitude of concerns and evidence of harms brought forward that evening in response to the handling of this situation. Thank you. Superintendent or the former athletic director held accountable, as your report said in your thorough investigation had shown evidence of the same in previous years. Why are we not holding those in authority accountable? I don't need to remind you or refresh your memory that these families are here this evening because there were athletes on one of our athletic teams that apparently did not follow Sayville School District's code of conduct, and as a result, endured severe consequences. Athletes were suspended, they were removed from the team, and the remainder of their season was shut down for behavior, as per Dr. Ferris's letter, was off school grounds. So if we are holding our students to this standard, why are we not holding our board members and our administration to the same standard when their actions on or off school grounds do not align with those of the Sayville community? At what point will any of you be taking accountability?
Are you done? Are you done?
You know, I have one more sentence. Remind you, your appointment to the Board of Ed is to represent the community's concerns and needed related, any related needs to the education of our children, not to represent your views on our behalf. You are here to represent us, and I have a very, very strong opinion of that these poor athletes And you know what? They owned it. They did own it, but we don't hold you accountable. We don't hold our administration. We're not holding our Board of Ed. Where is your accountability? Things are just swept by. There's parents here who didn't get their questions answered. I understand it can't all be done in one meeting, but the length of time that it's taking you to respond, this is very, very important.
Okay,
And,
when you're done, I'll answer your question.
okay.
When you're done.
When you're done.
When you're done.
You were really.
What's that?
Vote 'em out.
No, sorry. Let me just, you can sit down, you done? Thank you.
Sit down.
Okay. No. I remember the journey just like you. My boys went through school just like anybody else in Sayville. I care about the students of Sayville, okay? Now, you may criticize that I'm robot. I'm sorry, that's my nature. I'm not a public speaker. I'm a volunteer who chose to join the school board. I got elected by my community. I'm very grateful for that. I take that very seriously. And I'm hurt actually that you would accuse me of being robotic. You know, I can't help it.
You better prepare to meeting percentage plan, the 18th meeting without taking.
Can I explain? Okay, let's try.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you done?
Okay. Can I explain something?
No, you're done.
Okay.
Forever listening to this BS. And it's very, Aaron took that phone so fast. Are you done? That's so rude.
Excuse me, I'm trying to maintain order of the meeting, okay? That's all I'm trying to do. I am, but that.
I don't think you are. It is.
Okay. The reason I had a parent speech at the last meeting, which I did on my own, was because I wanted to be certain that I spoke correctly. On the fly, I'm not necessarily the best speaker, okay? And that's why I had to parent speech at the end, okay? So I'm sorry for that if you don't like that, but I was trying to.
So you had made up your mind.
No,
Before you
no.
heard any of this.
No.
How did you write a statement before you heard one single word with regard to the issue? That's all. That's all, you don't have to be.
No, that's not true. I don't
think before you heard us.
You're talking about two different things. Okay, it's like-
Statement right after we spoke the other night. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your prepared statement that said you, the board, fully support the superintendent. After we spoke.
Yes.
So that, and everybody on the board stands by that, after everything we said.
And not one word we said was taken into consideration.
Not one word.
when
Well,
you-
it does-
One acknowledgement, not one sentence.
Can we ask if every one of you support him individually?
No, you can't answer that, okay? Whether or not we want to go, public comment portion is closed, okay? I'm sorry that you're not happy with you, that's the reality.
So there's 2,000 parents according to your own system in that district, and nearly half of them have now signed a petition that we will redeliver to you immediately.
And it will go to the state ed department.
Moving on to regular business. Okay, I need a motion for item 601 to. Let's get to 7.10, motion, second, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. Okay, then I need a motion for new business 810 to. We'll do to new business 902, motion. Second. Discussion. All those in favor? Motion passes. Upcoming dates, we have the fall play. At the heights of the high school, I believe. And we have the schools are closed Veterans Day. And then we have a Board of Education meeting on November 15th. We have a November on the musical play at the middle school 5:30 on November 16th, 17th, and 18th. And that is what we have as up dates. I would now need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we're in executive. Thank you.